Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Today's Daf Nun, and we start from the Mishnah, Daf Memtes Amud Beis, Anaya Perik Rabbi Yishmael. Very interesting name for a Perik, right? A name for the name of a Perik. Okay. Perik Rabbi Yishmael, it's called. Rabbi Yishmael Omer. Rabbi Yishmael says, Sholosh Avonim Zu B'tzad Zu. If you have three stones, three rocks, Zu B'tzad Zu. Yeah? Zu B'tzad Zu is three words, one for each rock. Okay, I have three rocks. B'tzad Markulis. Now these three rocks that are side by side are next to a Markulis. You know what Markulis is? Markulis is the name of Avodah Zarah. You know what's really interesting about the name of this Avodah Zarah, Markulis? Markulis was compiled of a mound of rocks like this. This is like, let's say, a Markulis. And the way people would serve it, they wouldn't bow down to it. They would throw rocks at it. That was the form of service for this Avodah Zarah. So now, if you see a mound of rocks that is for sure a Markulis, everybody knows it's an Avodah Zarah. Now, that's for sure Aser. You can't have enough from those rocks. It's Avodah Zarah. But right next to it, you see Zu B'tzad Zu. You see three rocks next to each other, side by side, next to each other. Bishmol says, Asuris. You cannot have enough of these rocks either.
Because like they bounced off?
We'll see why. That's a great question. We'll see why. You have to wait.
Ushtayim.
What if it's only three rocks, two rocks, What if it's only two next to this mound of rocks? Ushtayim mutaros. That's mutar. The Chachamim say, it's not about three or two. That's not what makes it aser or mutar. V'chachamim sheniris imoy asuros, v'she'ein niris imoy mutaros. If it's close enough. Niris imoy means close enough. It's mamish within a certain distance of the Markulis. Then it's Aser. Why? Because you have to assume it rolled down from this mound of rocks in the Markulis. The She'ein Nir Simai, and if it's not, it's Mataris. They look at Rechavi's here. Okay,
I
now
told you that the Arabs, when they make the Hajj to Mecca, there are 5 stops that they make.
Okay.
And one of them is this, where they take stones and they throw it at some kind of a pillar or something.
That's not much Markulis.
Yeah.
Markulis is
Are they
exactly
trying to break the
service.
pillar? Are they trying to break it?
That's the way you have to ask them, right? Okay. So daily Gemara. We start the Gemara just now. Testament days a new Perik. Perik Bishmol. Bishloim Rabbanon. We just saw Machlikas in the Mishnah. When stones next to a Markulis are Aser. Bishmol says only there are 3 stones, but 2 is mutter. And
Memtes, okay.
And the Chachamim say if it's close enough, it's Niras Imai, it's Aser, and it's Einis Niras Imai, it's Mutter. Right? Okay, we'll see what Niras Imai, how close and how far it has to be in the Gemara. Says the Gemara, according to the Rabbanan, I understand. They hold Oivdin L'Shvarim, that when something rolls off this Markulis, good evening, doctor, something rolls off the Markulis, so are you Oivdin L'Shvarim? By the way, if something rolls off the Markulis, so this is, even though it's a complete stone, it's called Shvarim. Why is it called Shvarim? Because when they threw this rock at the Markulis, now it became part of it. It became part of it.
Yeah.
So now, if this falls and rolls down, now it's called a shever of this pile, right? Even though it's still whole on its own, but it's called a shever because it broke off from the original pile. Doctor, you like this? You like the Rebelli Stefanski style over here?
That's fantastic.
Okay.
You started the next parak?
Yeah, nothing like a visual aid, right?
You started the next parak? Or
Just now the Gemara, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Isn't there rules about the Markulis, how many stones?
Oh, we just had the Mishnah, right. Rabbi Shmuel says if there are 3 stones next to it, then it's Aser. If there are 2, it's Mutter. Chachamim say, no, it's not about 2 or 3. It's about how close it is to the Markulis. If it's close, then it's Aser. If it's farther away, it's Mutter.
Is there a shiur?
Why don't they go,
Is there a
The
shiur?
Gemara's going to talk about it. Yeah.
why don't they go to a goy and ask? Because the goy knows more than they do about this stuff, doesn't he?
That's true, but I don't know if the guy would know the stones that are next to the Markulis because it's maybe it rolled off. The guy doesn't necessarily
I mean,
know.
it's not based on a limit.
If you start with that logic, I mean you'll eliminate a lot of sugyas in the Gemara, a lot of sugyas in Shas.
No, but again, it's Avodah Zarah. Aren't they the ones who stand?
Yes,
You want-
yes.
you wanna
There
give
are a
him
bunch
the
of
Gemara?
goyim. Maybe the one guy doesn't know. It's another guy.
I did not spoil him now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, it's like Zunik and Zunik.
Reb Shol, man,
It's still a bunch of.
יש לנו אבנים פה. רב שול, יש לנו אבנים פה.
Word.
We have stones over here because we started the Mishnah of Rabbi Shmuel the Gemara.
Yeah,
Makulis,
yeah,
yes.
Right,
Psh. So Makulis is a mound of rocks, right? That they serve Avodah Zarah by throwing. Okay. Now Rabbi Shmuel says if you have 3 stones lined up next to each other like this, next to a Makulis, it's Aser. If you only have 2, it's Mutter. Chachamim say it's not about 2 or 3. It's about how close it is. Yes. Okay. Now the Gemara says, we're up to the Gemara. Bishlem Rabbanon. I understand the Chachamim Ksavri Oivden Lashvarim. Chachamim say that if, let's say this is a rock that slid off the mound, that's called a shever. Now it's a piece of the mound that slid off. And the Goyim would still serve this rock, even though it's not on the mound anymore itself, but it's still it's still servable. Let's call it
Wouldn't they put it
servable. Is
back?
servable a word? It's still servable.
Serviceable.
Serviceable. Okay.
Why didn't they just put it back?
No, service is when you provide for someone else.
Right.
Serve.
Okay,
Servable.
you're right and I'm wrong.
Okay.
Okay,
Why don't
which
they
line
just
are you?
put it-
How far from the bottom of the
No,
dog?
start with you're wrong and I'm right. No, I'm just kidding.
Why don't they
The
just
Gemara.
put it
Mishlami
on-
Rabbana. First line of the Gemara.
Why don't they just?
Uah, Reb Tzvi is doch. Hey, look at Reb Tzvi. Yeah. Okay.
Why don't they just put it back on the pile?
No, this Yid wants to take it home because he finds it on the side. Okay.
No, the good. No, you
Yeah, we
said
saw the
that-
new parrot just now.
No, you
Okay.
said- you
Very
said-
quickly, we're talking about Markulis for the 3rd time. Markulis is a mound of rocks, which is an Avodah Zarah, Reb Tzvi, and the way you serve it is by throwing rocks at it. So what if you?
Now I understand the riots.
Now you said the riots?
Now I understand the
Why?
Because what do they going to do? They just threw rocks.
They threw rocks. The protest in Shabbos, and they showed it. Anyway,
זה אסור בשבת, זה
yeah, rocks are muktzah, yeah.
הרבה עבירות,
Yeah.
הרבה עבירות, זה חילול השם גם.
Okay, but
No,
anyway,
just-
the Reb Shmuel says,
said
Reb
that-
Shmuel says 3 next to the Markulis is Aser, 2 is Mutter. Chachamim say depends how close it is. Zug the Gemara, Bishlam Rabbanan Ksavri Oivden L'Shvarim. That you, even if it rolls off the mound, those stones are servable. They still serve it as Avodah Zarah. I understand. Nearest imoy de ikalamim minei nafal. If it's close enough to the Markulis that you could say that it fell off, it rolled off from the mound of Avodah Zarah, then Avodah Tzasurais. It's Aser, because that's still part of the Avodah Zarah. It's still being served, even if it's breaking off the mound. As long as we see or we know that it broke off from the Markulis itself, then it's Aser. She'ein nearest imoy. But if it's not close enough to assume that it fell from the Markulis, then Mutaris, it's Mutter. And then, so Rabbanan are very, very understandable. We understand the Rabbanan. Rabbanan are saying it depends if it's if you can assume that it rolled off on the Markulis, it's Aser. If it's farther, then you can't assume it, so it's Mutter. El Rabbi Shmuel, who differentiates between 2 stones and 3 stones. Mike Savar, what kind of chiluk is that? Ik Savar Oivden L'Shvarim. If he holds Oivden L'Shvarim, that people would still serve a stone that breaks off from the mound, then afilu tartanami litzer. Then even if it's 2, it should also be aser. Why should 2 make a difference? If they don't serve the stones that break off from the Markulis, afilu tlas nami loy. Why then tlas shouldn't be aser either? Okay, so the Gemara is trying to struggling to figure out Rabbi Shmuel's chiluk in the Mishnah. Shmuel says that if it's 3 stones next to the mound of the Markulis, then it's aser. If it's 2, it's mutter. Gemara says, so there's 2 or 3. If they're still serving the stones, then even 2 should be us. If they're not, then even 3 should be mutter.
That's what I'm asking. Why are they serving the stones out off?
Because it fell off. It rolled off from the.
That's what I'm asking. Why are you leaving it? Like, do they?
Why are they still serving it? Because it's part of.
If they think it's part of it, then put it back on.
No.
Okay, they're not always gonna put it back on, but it's
the
still.
point is, you're not supposed to do any of that.
Yeah. Okay, 3 lines at the bottom of Matesam Beis. Amar Vitzcha Bar Yosef Amar Rabbi Yochanan biyadua shenashim v'nedivar kol asuris. If it's known. Why?
Mercury.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Mercury.
Mercury.
No, Mercury, the כוכב.
Yes.
Yeah.
הגויים היו מאמינים
Right,
שהכוכב
yeah.
מרקורי, תן לי לדבר.
Sorry.
הכוכב מרקורי,
Yeah.
זה סגולה for פרנסה and for business. אז
Yes.
היו שמים את זה in the fork of the road, שהסוחרים, the merchant used to go cross.
That's fascinating.
And they used to throw, and he used to be like a statue with a hand, and next to him there was like stones, and like to tell him, come on, throw your mazal, like that's what.
That's so
They
interesting.
used to put it in parashot drachim.
That is so interesting. All merchants would throw a rock. You know how they have like the good luck ponds that you throw money into
Yeah.
it?
Yeah,
Same shtiyot. Same shtiyot. Interesting. Wow. Super interesting. Same havel avalim. Yeah. We throw something else. We throw tzedakah in a pushka.
We don't throw it. Yeah.
We throw our various
Or
in
like
the
whatever.
river.
Yeah,
We throw
very
our
similar. Okay. So the Gemara. If it's for sure that these stones rolled off the markulas, everybody else it's aser. Even if you say that they don't serve it anymore once it breaks off in the markulas, that's only if a regular statue of Avodah Zarah and a part of it breaks off, they don't serve the whatever broke off. But by markulas, the meikura tavura mitberi, hainu orche. Yeah, by the markulis, the derech is for some stones to roll off. So everybody agrees ovdin l'shvarim over here because that is the derech. The derech is for stones to roll off. So even when it's rolled off, you're going to serve it.
The Chachamim changed it to Markulis.
They didn't want to say.
They didn't want to say Mercury. They call it Markolis. Keles.
Ah,
Keles.
very good, very good.
Keles is
Keles is like degrading.
Degraded.
Oh.
Yeah.
Keles, degraded. So the Chachamim changed the name from Mercury to
Beautiful.
Mr. Markulis.
Kulis, Keles.
Keles.
Lagvo Keles.
Mr. Keles.
Wow. Markulis, Mr. Keles. Ize yofi זה. איזה יופי. Wow, very nice. Okay.
צריך להבין את המשמעות, למה היו עושים את העבודה הזאת ככה, ואגב, החכמים שינו את השם.
Right, beautiful. So the Gemara says, keep ligi b'stama. The machlokes between Rabbi Shmuel and the Rabbanan is not biyadua. If you know for sure that this stone rolled off the mound, everybody holds 2, 3, doesn't matter, it's aser, it's all aser. Right? Because they still serve it. Even if you hold ein ovdin l'shvarim regularly, here they do, or there are ovdin l'shvarim, because this is the derech. Okay. So what's the machlokes of Rabbi Shmuel and the Chachamim? Keep ligi b'stama. Machlokes is b'stama where nobody knows what happened. So b'mekurava is, if it's close, Rashi says, what's mekurava? Going ba'ama v'chatzi amma. It's within an amma or half an amma of the mound of the markulas. The ikala meimar minei nofal, that it's very probable that it fell off and rolled off in the makulas. Divakar lasuris. Everybody would hold its aser also. Avad its aser. Keep ligi. Where's the machlokes between Rabbi Shmuel and the Chachamim? B'meruchakos. If it's farther away. What do you mean farther away? Rashi says, be'arba amas. Right? Bach says it's mamish b'toich arba amas. In other words, it's not an amma chatzi amma away. It's, let's say, 3 amas. Yeah, as long as it's still, meruchakos doesn't mean 100 miles away. It means within 4 amas, but it's farther removed than Mekuravos.
So it's still in the
So
Rishus.
it's still the Rishus of the Markulis,
right,
yes.
yeah.
The Gemara says, and that's where the Machlokes of Rabbi Shmuel and the Chachamim is. Keep ligim merchakas, va b'tzad Markulis ketani. The Gemara says, what do you mean? It's b'tzad Markulis. Shteitich b'tzad, which means it's close. No, my b'tzad arba amas day. It's still within 4 amas. Rabbi Shmuel holds, it depends if it's 2 rocks or 3 rocks. You know why? Oisin markulis kutin b'tkatan b'tzad markulis gadol. A person will build a murk markulis katan b'tzad markulis gadol. Sholish dedami la markulis asuros. Shtayim mutaris. 3 that are similar to markulis. What do you mean similar to markulis? Because a markulis is built with at least 3 rocks. Why is it at least 3 rocks? Because like 2 on the bottom and 1 on top, right? So if you at least have 3 rocks, right? Even if it's side by side, Rabbi Shmuel will say it's aser. Why? Because probably they built a markulis katan next to markulis gadol, so it's an avodah zarah. But if it's shtayim, mutaris, because shtayim, if it's meruchakas, it didn't fall off from the mound, and plus they didn't build it into markulis katan, because it doesn't have the necessary ingredients to build a markulis katan. Rabbanon savri. Doesn't matter, nearest in my suras, nearest in my mutaris. Now, the Chachamim say, if it's meruchakos, which means that there's no logical assumption that it fell off and rolled off on the mound, then even if it's 3 rocks, it's mutter. because nobody makes another Markulis cotton within 4 amas of a Markulis Gadol. Rabbi Shmuel says no. Even if it's Meruchakas and it didn't roll off the mound, you should know that people do that. People make a Markulis cotton next to Markulis Gadol. So if you have 3 racks, which are the ingredient, the least amount of stones to make a Markulis, you have to assume that they actually made this into a Markulis, even if it didn't roll off the mound. Okay, yeah.
סליחה, יש מחלוקת, האם מרקוליס זה היה פסל עצמו, עם 2 ידיים כאלה ככה, או מרקוליס זה 2 אבנים צמודות, שזה ידיים, למה 2? ועל זה הראש. לכן אם אין את הראש, אז זה לא נחשב מרקוליס.
יפה.
Again, so you're saying that the 2 hands of the...
מחלוקת.
יפה מאוד.
או שזה symbolize הפסל.
Yeah,
One second, so the Chachamim say that 3 racks is not going to be Markulis because...
No, 3 racks is Markulis.
The Chachamim say if it's Meruchakas and 3 racks, 1, 2, 3...
אם רחוק, אז זה לא ידיים קרוב, זה לא קרוב, זה לא פסל. זה לא ידיים קרובות.
no, Rachok means Rachok from the main Markulis.
זה לא משנה.
So you're saying that the pestle is a statue with two hands out?
היה מחלוקת, האם זה פסל או זה 2 אבנים ועוד אבן על הראש שלהם.
רגע.
He says too, he says this is symbolic.
Right.
Symbolic, no, not a pestle. Yeah.
Right.
זה מחלוקת.
What, the Markulis cotton is symbolic?
זה מחלוקת.
But Meruchakas means that it's farther away, meaning it's not like this? That's what Meruchakas means?
It has 3 stones, but it's too far away to be connected. It doesn't have the
it's not a chashivut like a pesel.
It's like he said at the roadways, they put it there to remind the goyim of the original.
One second. I'm learning wrong pshat then. Give me a second.
Yeah, this is what Steinsaltz says.
Oh, one
I'm not
second.
reading Steinsaltz.
Hold on.
I'm reading Steinsaltz.
You read.
You're right.
Okay.
1 second. No. One second. The Meruchakas and Mekuravas, the Gemara is differentiating is from the main mound to the little one. Meruchakas means it's farther than a half, am and a half. And Mekuravas means it's within an am and a half. And the reason why Mekuravas, everybody holds its aser, doesn't matter how many rocks, even if it's 2 according to Rabbi Shmuel, is because it fell from the main mound. It fell from the Markulis. So that is a problem. It's Avodah Zarah. Meruchakas means it's much farther. If it's much farther, then you eliminated the possibility that these rocks fell from the main mound. So now the only reason why it can possibly be usher is because perhaps they turned this into a Markulis on its own, a Markulis cotton. So Rabbi Shmuel holds Markulis cotton as usher. They usually do that, and that's why I have to assume that it's Markulis cotton by 3 rocks and it's usher. Chachamim say no, it's not the derech to make a Markulis cotton within 4 amas of Markulis gadol, and that's why it's mutter. That's all. I think Mekuravas Meruchakas means from the main mound, from the main Markulis, not these 3 rocks, how close they are to each other. Okay. Yeah.
So, when according to Rabbanan, when it says nearest to my source, is that the definition of Dal Amis or no? Meaning,
how much is Mekuravas, how much is Meruchakas?
Yeah, because are they arguing or they're not arguing?
No, they're not arguing Mekuravas Meruchakas. How much is Mekuravas Meruchakas? No. Mekuravas is an Amma v'chetzi, Rashi says.
Right.
And Meruchakas is farther than that.
But within 4 amas.
All different. Meruchakas within 4 amas, Mekuravas within 4 amas. Yes.
So they're not arguing, they're arguing the Messias.
They're arguing in Meruchakas, which for sure didn't roll off the mound, right? Do you have to assume a different chashash? That they made it into Markulis cotton or not? This is a Markulis b'fnei atzmoi next to
more than 1.5. It's within 4. It didn't roll off.
Right, it didn't roll off. So the question is there a new chashash we have to be choishish for?
So what? I'm sorry. What is Tash Nirsim Ayasurish? Ain't Nirsim Mutaris? Meaning, what is he saying?
Right, Nirsim means if it's Mekuravas, it's Asr. Ain't Nirsim, it's not Meruchakas. It's just a different way of saying Mekuravas, Meruchakas. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Right, that's the Chacham. Right.
It's basically the same Mekuravas.
The same thing. Yeah. Okay. You came just in time for the 2 dots. We're up to Nun Amid Aleph, guys. Nun Amid Aleph, it's like 7-8 lines in the top. Omar Mar. We just learned, B'yadua shenashrim mimenu divrei kol asuros. If somebody actually saw the rocks roll off from the Markulis, Avada, there is nobody who holds its mutter to have enough from these rocks. Everybody holds its asr because it came from Avodah Zarah. Omar Mar. B'yadua shenashrim mimenu divrei kol asuros. Everybody holds its asr. Asks the Gemara, is that really true? Veramini, I'll ask you a stira. Avonim shenashrum and a Markulis, avonim that is known. Yeah, you have to put in the word known over it, because shenashru. And Gemara is establishing a fact. Avonim that rolled off from a markulis, nearest imay asuris, she'ein nearest imay mutaris. V'bishmol oimer shalosh asur shtayim mutaris. So here, what do you have? You have the same machlokas of Shmuel and Chachamim in the case of Yedua. But you just told me Yedua, everybody holds it's asur. That's not where the machlokas is at. And over here, it sounds like the machlokas is even if it's biyedua, if it's known that these rocks came off of markulis. You have to change that. Brisa doesn't mean shenashru, they found it there, and taka it's not known. Okay, v'sover Rabbi Shmuel. Now the Gemara is pivoting to Rabbi Shmuel over here and wants to try to understand Rabbi Shmuel. V'sover Rabbi Shmuel shtayim mutaris. Does Rabbi Shmuel really hold that if you find two rocks meruchakos, right, which means within 4 amas, but a little farther away, it's mutter. V'atanya. We learned in another brisa, Rabbi Shmuel says, Shtayim betfisa loy asurois. If you have two betfisa, what does it mean betfisa loy? It's within tfisa's distance of the markulis, which means it's... Yeah. נכון.
זה היה הסימבל
הדרך, כן.
דרך של שני ידיים בראש.
כן.
זה כאילו סימבלייז.
כן.
זאת אומרת שיש לו איזה... רש"י אומר כאן.
Yeah, exactly like you said. That's the way they used to do it.
I just want to make sure.
ככה הם היו עובדים. זאת צורתו של המרקוליס.
כן,
I just
כן.
want to
אז
make
מה
sure.
אתה...
זאת צורת של המרקוליס.
אוקיי.
אם אתה רואה אותם 3 ככה, זה לא מרקוליס. אלא אם כן זה אחד, ואחד עליו. זה מרקוליס. זה מה, זה 3 אחד ליד השנייה, זה לא מרקוליס.
I mean, if it's like this, it's like this. You're saying it's shoulder, if it's like this?
השאלה היא כזאתי.
ככה?
השאלה כן, זה לא מרקוליס. השאלה היא כזאתי.
מרקוליס זה רק ככה.
כן, אז רק רגע. אם אתה רואה אותם, שהם ככה, והם ב4 אמות שלו, אז זה שברי מרקוליס, שזה חלקים שעבדו את המרקוליס.
כן,
זאת אומרת,
כן.
הם לא...
אבל זה רק מקורובס. זה רק מקורובס. אבל אם זה מרוחקוס...
זה לא זה ולא זה.
מה זאת אומרת? לא.
למה? תראה.
אבל שמואל אומר שאסור. רבי שמואל אומר במשנה שזה אסור.
אבל זה חייב להיות עליו, זה חייב אחד השני.
זה לא השלושה של המשנה. המשנה אומר, זו שלוש אבונים, זו בצד זו. מה זאת אומרת? זו השלוש, זו בצד זו.
רש"י אומר, צורתו של המרקוליס, אחד לשנייה, ועוד אחת עליו.
אוקיי, אבל יכול להיות
זה נפל?
האבן, כן.
נפל.
כן, יכול להיות.
Yeah.
Okay. But you're right. The tzura of a makulis is exactly like you're saying. Like it's 2 on the bottom, 1 on top. Okay. So the Gemara, V'sovar Rabbi Shmuel. The first word of the line is V'sovar. Yeah, it's like 15, 20 lines on the top. V'sovar Rabbi Shmuel, Shtayim Mutaris. You just told me that Rabbi Shmuel, the Mishnah says, that Shtayim is mutter if you have only 2 rocks. V'tanya Rabbi Shmuel Omer Shtayim B'tfisa loy asuros. Right? Tfisa loy is just another way of saying Mekuravas, right? It's within grabbing distance of the big markulis. V'shalosh afilu meruchakois asurois, and shalosh, even if it's meruchok, it's also aser. Shtayim is only if it's close, and shalosh even if it's far. But what do you say? What do you see from over here? The Rabbi Shmuel holds Shtayim is always aser. So how could the Mishnah say the Rabbi Shmuel holds Shtayim is mutter? In this brisa, what do you see? Brisa says Rabbi Shmuel is asers by Shtayim when it's mekurav, when it's betfisa.
Right? העבודה שלו, זה לא הוא עצמו, זה העבודה שלו, זה כאילו נשתברו. כאילו זה האבנים, אם זה 2, כאילו זה האבנים שזרקו עליו. אתה מבין?
If זה 2, then you have to assume...
אז עכשיו אני מבין מה שאתה אומר.
Yes, that's Rabbi Stern. You're saying Rabbi Stern.
אם זה 3, זה כמו שאתה אומר, 3, זה יכול להיות שזה המרקוליס, למה?
כן.
כי נפל.
כן.
כי הן צמודות אחת לשנייה, כי יכול להיות שהן נפלו.
כן.
אז זה המרקוליס עצמו.
Yes.
זה העבודה הזו. אני חושש לזה.
זה המרקוליס עצמו, כן.
כן, כי אני חושש לזאת. אבל שהן 2, יש לי בעיה. למה אני חושש? כי צריך להיות 3, צריך להיות 1 ואחד עליו.
כן. אז רק אם זה נפל.
כן.
רק אם זה מקורב.
אם זה נפל ליד, אם זה קרוב ליד.
That's right. That's what Rav was going to say.
אז אני חושש שזה המרקוליס עצמו.
כן.
ושזה 2 לבד.
אז רק אם זה מקורב, אז זה נפל מפה, אז זה כן. נכון, זהו. Omar Rav Oloi Kasha. Kam betfisa achas. When do we say that it's aser, that 2 is aser, that's only if it's betfisa achas, meaning there's no hefsek between the main markulis and the rocks. Meaning it's close enough to assume that it fell from the main markulis. That's when we say Shtayim is aser. But Khan, in our Mishnah, why is our Mishnah saying Shtayim Mutaris? Because in our Mishnah is B'Shtei Tfisas. Shtei Tfisas is another way of saying that there's a hefsek between the main markulas and the stones that you found. Which means if there's a hefsek, if there's another mound that separates the markulas, the main markulas, with these stones, so for sure it did not slip off the main markulas, right? The main Avodah Zarah. Mesho acher legamre. So if it's a masho acher legamre, so it's only if it's 3 racks. If it's 3 racks, then you have to assume that they made another markulas next to it, right? And that itself is Avodah Zarah. But if it's 2, nobody builds it with 2 racks. Like Abshol said, the shape has to be at least the minimum 3, right? And that's why it would be mutter. Chaim, what?
When you say half six, does that mean there's a mound in the middle?
Mound in the middle between the markulas, which is a big markulas, which is Avodah Zarah, and the other 3 racks that are farther removed. So if there's a mound in the middle, there's a hefsek, there's no way that this flew over here, right? So it didn't fall from here. So somebody must have put it here. So now you have to check if it's 2 or 3. If it's 3, then somebody put it here as Avodah Zarah. But if it's 2, nobody makes an Avodah Zarah. Markulas cannot be built with less than 3 racks.
אתה יודע,
That way,
אני
man.
פעם הלכתי לאיזה סופלייר שלי,
Yeah.
וראיתי, שאלתי אותו, where is the restroom? אמר לי, תלך ככה וככה, זה restroom. אני בדרך להולווי, אני רואה פסל עם 2 ידיים, הם שמו לו $2, דולר פה ודולר פה.
כן.
ממש עבודה זרה. חזרתי בחזרה,
Like a Buddha, the Buddha.
לא בודה, פסל, לא יודע, הוא עשה פסל מאמצע, אני יודע מה, בצורת של אדם.
go
מה
hiking.
מרקוליס?
Buddha has those.
והוא ידיים ככה, בדולר. אמרתי לו, מה זה? הוא אומר לי, זה מביא לי מזל לכסף.
Oh boy. That's
אמרתי
mamish.
לו,
That
תגיד
could
לי,
be.
אמרתי, תגיד לי, אתה יודע.
זה מביא לי מזל לכסף.
כן,
אוי
כן,
ויי.
ככה אמרתי לו, הטומטם הזה.
וואו.
אמרתי לו, אתה יודע שאתה איידל וושיפר.
What? That's right.
אמרתי לו, you're איידל
I
וושיפר.
gotta get some from God.
אמרתי לו, I don't know want to do business with you.
Basically, it's very simple. The machloikas in the Mishnah, let's just summarize what the machloikas between Rav Shmuel and the Chachamim is, yeah? Let's just walk away with the clarity here, yeah? Machloikas in Rav Shmuel and the Chachamim is not by Mekuravas. If it's within an am and v'chetzi, and there's no separation, right? You found a mamish right here. Everybody holds shtayim or shalish, it's aser. There's no chilik, shtayim or shalish here. Rav Shmuel is not arguing on that. Rav Shmuel agrees to the Chachamim. If it's niris imoy and there's no separation between the big markulas and the stones that you found, everybody agrees that it's aser. Because there's a logical assumption that it fell from the markulas. Where is the machloikas? The machloikas is, you have to put it away and you put a separation between. Oh, now it's for sure, these rocks for sure didn't fall off the markulas. So then so why should it be aser? It says Rabbi Shmuel, check if there's 2 or 3. If there's 2, also not aser. But if there's 3, then this is probably built as a markulas because the derech is to build a markulas cut next to markulas gadol, and therefore this has an avodah zarah, Hashem avodah zarah b'fnei atzmai. Okay, so that's Rabbi Shmuel. Chachamim say they don't do that. That's not their derech. The only chashash is nafal, and mamela. The only criteria is mekuravos betfisa achas. That's the whole machlokes between Shmuel and Chachamim. Whether you have this new chashash, if it's meruchak with a hefsek, is there a chashash that they built in avodah zarah? Shalosh yesh time no according to Shmuel, according to Chachamim never. That's it. Finished. That's the machlokes. Says the Gemara. Umakulas ke hay gavna. What is a shtei tfisas? It means that there is a separation, there is a mound that's mafsik between the avanim and the markulas. Markulas kai gavna mihavi frek di gemara. Markulas like that is that really markulas? Vatanya elu and avnei beiskulas achas mekan v'achas al gabeyan. Oh, that's your kasha, Reb Shol. Look, the Gemara asks your kasha. How could you assume that zu b'tzad zu is a markulas? The way you build a markulas is like this, not like this. Mamash, your kasha, Reb Shol, Macham to the Gemara. Yeah? The Gemara says, why are you asering 3 stones next to each other because you assume it's a markulas? That's not how you build a markulas. A markulas is like this. I told you probably fell, but the Gemara has a better text. Says the Gemara says, yeah? Vatanya ilun avn beskulas. Achas mekan, achas al gabein. Omar Rava, kitanya hi beikir markulas.
How do we know it's not the case of the shalash? Maybe the shalash is on top. Where are we so why is it presuming it's not? Maybe it's 3 and 1's on top. How do we know?
Mishnah's lashon is sholosh avanim zu b'tzad zu. So the lashon of Mishnah is not like that.
שיש מציאות שמרקוס קטן לא חייב להיות עליו, יכול להיות 1, 2, 3.
Yes, right. But he's asking, Chat Shtaim Shalosh Zu B'tzad Zu is not really the shape of markulas. Ahi, the Iker markulas.
זאת אומרת שיש עוד שיטה שאפילו 3 אבנים זו בצד זו, זה גם מרקוליס.
Right.
זאת אומרת 1, 2, 3, לא חייב להיות עליו.
Right.
זה מה שהוא רוצה להגיד.
No, but Iker Markulis means that any time the Markulis is close to a big Markulis, then you don't have to put it on top.
זה לא חייב.
Yeah, yeah, you have to put it on top.
כי הביג מרקוליס זה כבר...
Yeah, that's already,
הראש שלו שם.
yes. When you have it next to a big Markulis, then you don't have to build a small one like this. They're not makpid. But if there's no big Markulis next to it, then the small one has to be properly built. Verstehst? Okay. Zug der heilige Gemorre weiter. Be Yanai Malke Chorev. The palace, the house of Yanai HaMelech was destroyed. Also, Avdei Kechavim, I guess, the Avdei Kechavim came and they wanted to use this churva and for another purpose. Ukme be Markulis. So they put their Markulis inside that churva. And what did they do? And they threw rocks at it. That was the way they served it. Other goyim, I guess in the middle of the night or later, the loy palchel Markulis, that they didn't believe in the Markulis. They didn't believe in this Avodah Zarah. Shaklinu, they took all the stones that the other oivdim threw at the Markulis, and you know what they did with it? You know what they did with it? The chipur ben drochim ustartois. You know, can I tell you something? I was just in Greece. My kids, Salonika. In Salonika, they had, we spoke about it, Salonika was the Irva Embi Yisrael of Shloim Al-Kabitz, Baal Chadoidi, was born in Salonika. Yeah, the Rebbe of the Beis Yosef was born in Salonika. It was a city, one of the only cities in the world that kept Shabbos. Everything shut down. The whole city shut down for Shabbos. Saloniki, yeah. And it had a very tragic end. Very tragic end. But the Holocaust, they destroyed the entire cemetery, and they took the Matzevis and they built the university with it. They built the Aristotle University with it, they built
Where in
Saloniki.
Oh.
Yeah. And they built roads with it. They used it for, and that's it. And now all you have, we went there in that spot. They have a plaque commemorating the thousands and thousands, the tens of thousands of graves that were there over the hundreds and hundreds of years that Salonika was an Irva Embi Yisrael. That's it. It's chipu behen drochem ustartiyos. That's mamash they used it. So lahavdil elf avadolos. The Gemara is talking about avnei markulis, which they used lachbos behen drochem ustartiyos. Ikar abon of the parashis. The Chachamim said we're not allowed to walk on these roads. Why? Because it was built with stones from an Avodah Zarah. So we can't use it. Not allowed to have enough from it. The Ikar abon of the parashis. Some rabbanon said.
הגוי יכול לבטל את העבודה זרה למדנו. רק הגוי מבטל את העבודה זרה.
רק הגוי שמאמין בעבודה זרה הזאתי יכול לבטל אותו. אבל מי שלא מאמין בכלל בעבודה זרה, you can't, like, the reason why a Jew can't be mevatel avodah zarah is because a Jew never believed in the avodah zarah to begin with. It's only the person who gave chashivas to the avodah zarah can be mevatel the avodah zarah. ככה אתה מפרש. האחרונים מפרשים למה ישראל אין...
למדנו על ישראל, למדנו ישראל.
אני אומר לך מילסה 200.
אתה לא יכול להיות גזירה שווה מישראל לגוי.
לא גזירה שווה, אני אומר לך, מה הטעם בישראל שישראל לא יכול לבטל?
זה משהו אחר, כי ישראל לא עובד עבודה זרה. אבל מכיוון שיש חזקה על עובד עבודה, גוי, עובד עבודה זרה, יש לו...
לא, הגמרא אומר,
זה לא משנה אבל.
אוהב תקחו מאחרים, לא יפלחי למרקולס. They weren't פלח, they weren't serving it.
עובדים עבודה זרה אחרת.
בסדר, אבל זרה הזאתי אי אפשר.
אבל אצלהם זה לא שייך, אז רגע, מחר הוא יעבוד את המרקוליס.
Yeah.
יש איכות שמחר יעבוד את המרקוליס, זה לא עובד עבודה זרה.
Right. We don't know, okay, בסדר, okay, you're asking.
ביהודי, ביהוד, אין מציאות שיעבוד עבודה זרה.
Right.
אז לכן זה לא תופס.
Okay, the Gemara is going to talk about it. The Gemara is going to ask you a question. Okay, let's go. Okay, fine. Gemara is going to talk about it in a moment. Okay? Says the Gemara, Ikadar Abba the Parshi. Some separated themselves from it, and some didn't separate themselves from it. Rabbi Yochanan says, Benon shel Kedoshim. The son of the holy, Mahalach Alein, Manan Nivrish Mehen. He's walking on it. We should be more machmir than the Gdoilim, than the Benon shel Kedoshim. Who is that Benon shel Kedoshim Rabbi Yochanan is referring to? Rabbi Menachem, Rabbi Simoy, V'may Krol Benon shel Kedoshim. Dafilu b'tzurus the Zuzi lo mistakli. He never looked at the coins, the image of the coin of money. Yeah, who never saw money? Anyone in recent times? Any Gedolim I remember?
Well, what? They didn't have paper money.
I didn't have paper money. The coins. They never looked at the image on a coin.
Another 20 years, nobody gonna see money. Only with the Bitcoin.
Everything is going to be Bitcoin or
Totally electronic.
Venmo, Zelle, whatever.
We're gonna see coin in a museum and see me.
That's right. Says the Gemara. Says the Gemara. My time with the man the parish. Why? What's the reason for the Chachamim that refused or refrained from using those roads? Says the Gemara, Savar Laki Ha, Davar Gidlam Rav Chibar Yosef and Rav. He held like Rav. What does Rav say? Menayla te kroivis avoides kechavim. She'in la betela oilamis. A takroivis, anything you bring as a carbon to an Avodah Zarah can never become batal. It's not like Avodah Zarah itself. It's almost like takroivis. Oh, shenemar v'yitzomdu leval pa'oir v'yoichlu zivchei mesim. That they attach themselves to Baal Pa'oir and they ate from zivchei mesim. Says the Gemara, we dash from that pasuk. Ma meis ein lo betela la'olam. After kroivis avodas kechavim, ein lo betela la'olam, which means that the kroivis avodas kechavim is worse. Avanim avdela is a kroivis is worse than the avodas kechavim itself, because avodas kechavim itself you can be mevatel, but the kroivis can never be nesbatel. What's the svara in this concept that the kroivis can never become batel? So the Achronim say, they explain, because avodah zarah, its whole power, its whole significance is from the importance you attach to that avodah zarah. So the bittul just means you're removing that chashivas. So as long as, if the whole avodah zarah, the whole koyach comes from the chashivas that you give it, so bittul helps. You remove the chashivas, and now that's nisbatul. But takroivis is completely different. People are makriv avonim. Avonim has no chashivas, right? Nothing. It's not like be like a Baal Pa'oir. Yeah, their service was degrading sometimes. Takroivis of Avodas Kechavim has nothing to do with chashivas. Takroivis of Avodas Kechavim is takroivis of Avodas Kechavim. It's a din b'fnei atzmai. So mamela, if it's not the chashivas, bittul doesn't help. Bittul only helps if the source or the makar is because you apply chashivas to it. So then you can be mevatel it. But takroivis doesn't have, you can never be mevatel it because the whole isser nemtzach nishne chashivas. And that's why the Chachamim didn't use it. There's no bittul. Amad loy parish amar, and the one who actually walked it, was Menachem bar Psamoi, the Bnei Kadoshim. He says an unbelievable chiddush. Why am I allowed to use the road even though it was built from stones that you threw at Markulis and a chayres takroivis of Avodas Kechavim? You know why?
Is it degrading to use the road? That's what I was thinking, but still any benefit.
Right, so that's why the first Tana held its bottle, because you're mevatel Avodas Kechavim. But
no, it's not about being mevatel. Even if it was Avodah Zarah, you're not. It's like it's a one negative, one positive. You even though it's Avodah Zarah, you're still using it as a.
But the grading doesn't help according to the first Tana because it's takroivis. Takroivis doesn't. Bittul doesn't help. That's the chiddush Gemara. Bittul doesn't help with takroivis. Right. Uman deloy parish amar, and the one who actually used it. Why did he use it? Takroivis does not have bittul. You can't be mevatel takroivis. A pasuk. Zivchei mesim. Gemara says beina ke'en pnim v'leka. You know why? Because in order for takroivis to be labeled takroivis, in order to call it takroivis, and all the dinim of takroivis Avodas Kechavim, it has to be similar to takroivis of the Beis Hamikdash, lahavdol $5. Right? And just like, what can you bring as a carbon to the Beis Hamikdash? Stones? You can't bring stones. Right? You have to make a tamim, a behemoth that's tama, right? That's mamish complete, right? It's whole. But not for takroivis, not as a carbon. Not as a carbon.
Bring a sheep to the Avodah Zarah.
And that's why it doesn't assume the isser of takroivis, because in order for it to assume the isser of takroivis, it has to be the kind of takroivis that you would bring in the Beis Hamikdash. Rabbi Yirmiyah came to our place where we lived. I love this lashon. He came and he brought with him in his hands a brisa. No? How can you hold in your hands a brisa? He brought
something that's on the tip of your tongue.
Right.
Right there.
It's tangible, right? It's like you're holding on to it. It's amazing. Where it says, what's the brisa that he brought? It says, a guy that brought stones from Makulah, and he covered roads or stratiyos, mutaris, it's mutar ba'ano. Yisrael shevivan merkoz chib bedrach misdrois asuros. That's aser. V'les nager v'loy barnager difrakina. You're not going to find a chacham or the son of a chacham, shalom aleichem Rabbi, that is going to be able to answer this. Omer Rav Sheishes, ano, I loy nager ano, I'm not a chacham. V'loy bar nager ano, I'm not a son of a chacham. Ufarikler, I'm going to answer it. My kasha, what's the kasha that he has? That he says there's no teretz for it. The Rav Gidl. He's going to ask Rav Gidl's kasha. What's Rav Gidl's kasha? that Rabbi says that you can even a goy can never be mevatel takroivis. So how could this brisa that Rabbi Yirmiyah brought say that a goy that brings avonim and builds drachim with it is mutter bano? Zivchein mesim, you can't be mevatel it. So Rav Shesha says very pashta teretz be'imik and pnim v'lekel. No, he doesn't hold this takroivis. It doesn't assume the halachas of takroivis unless it's similar to the takroivis of the Beis Hamikdash. So it's not such a kasha. He's saying less nager v'loy bar nager the yifrakinei. Have a pashta teretz be'imik and pnim v'lekel. Rav Yosef Barabba. So Rav Yosef Barabba had another version. He says, Ikla Rabba B'Yim La Asrin. Rabbi Yirmiyah came to our place. V'osa v'aisa masnisa b'yodeh. He came and brought a gift. What in his hands? What did he bring? He brought him a brisa. What's the brisa say? Masliyan umazamin b'shviyas. In Shemitah, we're not familiar with all the avodas karka. Actually, my neighbor across the street in Fuller, he always tells me he used to have a farm in Eretz Yisrael, and he's like he drops off, even today, he drops off, fruits, bananas, or whatever he gets from different farms. So anyway, see, he said, so I don't know the avodah that goes into farming, but apparently one of the avodas in agriculture is it's called masliyan. You remove all the teiloim from the elon, right? You pick off all the worms from the tree. Umazam, and sometimes you attach some of the fertilizer to the tree itself, to the trunk. Okay, so we know in Shemitah you're not allowed to do avodas karka. You're not allowed to work your field. You can't work your tree. Says the brisa, masliyan mutar, umazamin mutar, b'shviyas and Shemitah. But the ein masliyan umazamin b'chalamoid. Chalamoid, you're also not allowed to do malacha. So you're not allowed to do that in chalamoid. Why not? Avodah. So even though it's malacha, Shemitah is mutar. Chalamoid is aser. Okay, hang in there. Says the Gemara, kan v'kan. But both Shemitah and Chalamoid, you can't ein megazmin, you can't cut some of the branches. The gizum was a practice you do with trees. You wanted to grow more branches, so you cut off one, and it grows more. Pruning.
It's not only the same reason.
So we'll see in a moment. V'sochen shemen legizum, and you are allowed to smear that branch that you just pruned. You're allowed to smear it with oil. Bein b'moyed, bein b'shviyas, in Chalamoid and in Shemitah. That's not allowed to be done on either one. The less nager v'loy bar nager difrakina, and I have nobody can answer this kasha, the kasha I have on this brisa. Which is excellent. The Gemara is going to go through a whole sugya. What is exactly the kasha? Amar Ravina said, "I know loy nager ano v'loy bar nager ano difrakina." I'm not a chacham, not a ben chacham, and I can answer it easily. Maika kasha. What's really the kasha? First, let's explain the kasha. What's the kasha? Ileima moyed ashviyas kasha. In the ratio of the brisa, it differentiates with chalamoid and shmita. Ma'ishna shviyas the shari. Why is masliyan and mazahamin and shmita? And ma'ishna moyed the aser. Why is chalamoid aser? So the Gemara says, if that's the kasha, it's not a kasha. Midami? Can you compare shmita to chalamoid? Shviyas malacha aser achmana. And shmita the Torah aser malacha mamish. Right? Tircha shari. Any tircha that's not really labeled as malacha is mutter. Right? But moyed afilu tircha nami aser chalamoid. Even tircha is aser, right? The Rebbe wants to relax in chalamoid. Have availability to learn Torah. Yeah, so mamela there's no kasha. That's not a kasha for sure. The elo, so what's Ravina's kasha? That he says loy nager v'loy bar nager can answer. The elo ziyam agizim kekasha lei. The kasha is from the ratio to the seifim. Why in the ratio and Shemitah it's mutter, ziyum, and masliyan is mutter, but in the Sefer, in Shemitah, megazman is aser, sochen shemen legizim is aser. Why should there be a difference? Ma'ishna ziyum the shari, and ma'ishna gizim the aser on Shemitah. So Gemara says it's also not a kasha, because midami, ilana ziyum okme ilana v'shari. Ziyum, what does it do? It makes sure that the elon doesn't die. You're just maintaining what is. Maintaining the elon, keeping it alive, is not considered a malacha and shemitah, right? You're not improving it, you're just maintaining it, you're making sure it doesn't die. That's okay. Gizum, avriyolana. That's why it's also because gizum is not necessary to keep the tree alive. You're trying to improve the tree, you want to make it grow more branches. That's osir on shemitah. So if you have a kasha, why gizum is osir and why ziyam is mutter on shemitah, very simple. Ziyam keeps the tree alive, that's mutter. If you want to be mashbiach the tree on shemitah, that's osir. The elo, so what's really Ravina's kasha? Ravina's kasha is Ziyum aziyum kakashale. It's a kasha ziyum aziyum. The Ktoni Maslim Zam Shvias, and our Bryce it says you do ziyum and Shvias or a minimum Zam Shativ Gachles and Kaitas Veslam Batmash Kazarashon, other Shon and El Shvias Atzmaloi. So that Bryce it lists a whole list of malachas that you're not allowed to do only up until Rosh Hashanah. But in Rosh Hashanah, once Shemitah kicks in, you're not allowed to do it. And one of them is ziyum. Our Bryce says ziyum is mutter. That Bryce says ziyum is aser. That's a contradiction. Gemara says that's also not a kasha. The dilma kedravok b'chama, the omer b'chama trei kashkusha have. Right, there are two types of ziyum. Chad lavruya lon of aser, v'chad lastuma pili v'shari. Right, depends. If you want to make sure that you want to keep it alive, lastuma pili, right, you want to cover over the roots so it doesn't die, doesn't dry up. That's mutter. And lavruya lona, that's aser because that is mashbiachit. Hachanami trei zamuma v'chad lok be'lona v'shari v'chad lavruya lona v'aser. So it's also not a kasha because there's two types of ziyum, and the Bryce that says it's aser is talking about shvach. And the Bryce that's mutter is talking about keeping it alive. The ella sicha sicha kashal, the kasha sicha sicha, smearing the branch that you just cut off with oil. The toni sachan sham lagizo b'mod b'mshvias. You're allowed to do it. For a mini sachan asapagin menakavim tadman is at Rosh Hashanah shana end b'shvias loy. So a Bryce later a Bryce and shvias, a Mishnah shvias says you're not allowed to do it. So the Bryce and the Mishnah are contradicting each other. Whereas it's also not a kasha. Midami hachi ilona hachi ukmi ilona v'shara. Again, the same type of teretz. If you're trying to mashbiach it, that's aser. If you're trying to keep it alive, that's mutter. And you can answer like that. No, it's chalamoid. Sicha, over here it says in moyed, it's aser, and over there, it's mutter. It's no difference. That was the kasha that he had no teretz for. Okay, so Mamela, we leave it at that. There's no teretz to this kasha on sicha asicha demoyed. Okay, yes.
I understand